Face to face, hand to hand, film to film.
Welcome to the Film to Film podcast. My name is James. I am joined here by my good friend and fellow co-host, Iñaki. How are you doing, Iñaki?
Doing pretty well, James. How about you?
I am doing just fine. So we are right in October, so we're perhaps choosing the absolute most appropriate movie for this season, Halloween. This is
someone might call it cliche. No, I'm just kidding.
No. I mean that's real. I mean this is I think the first North American film that I've chosen. Choosing going straight to the classics here. So we're gonna talk about Halloween. And then we're gonna follow up with talking about the latest Halloween movie, Halloween Kills. And that review will probably be a little bit shorter. Both of these are going to be filled with spoilers. So if you are if you haven't seen it yet and you want to watch the film before watching it, then please do that before. But first, we're going to be talking about the original Halloween. So, Iñaki, I assume you have seen this film a few times. When have you seen it? How many times? How do you think it held up this time?
I've seen it 4 times. The first time I saw it must have been in the mid to late 90s. So I was probably 8 or 10. That was probably the first time I saw it. The first time I saw it, I thought it was terrifying. And I mean, I was basically the Michael Myers age.
Yeah, and you hadn't been to America before, right? When you saw it?
No. So this was in Chile.
Yeah. So how was it watching it as someone that had never been? Because I mean, like one of the characteristic things about this is that it's very suburban America, and you hadn't been to suburban America.
It was like interestingly enough, in Chile, I lived in somewhat of a gated community. And because of that, within that gated community, there were houses. There were like houses were somewhat nearby. They were just much smaller than the ones in the film, but you had sort of that neighborhood feel, so it was translatable. Granted, it was not the same, not at all. I mean, the American suburbs are a thing, and you know they're very unique, especially when we're talking about the Midwest feel.
Yeah.
Although, like Midwest or whatever, I mean, like
somewhat universal.
Yeah.
In America, at least.
Exactly. And I mean, yeah. In Santiago, you don't really have that, but I mean, when you're a kid, at least you don't think too much about it, especially at that age. I was more concerned in the concept of, that house has 2 floors, and I live in a 2-floor house, in a house that has 2 floors. Things like that, you know.
Right, and you know, there's a certain like simplicity and universality to the film. Like it's a very, very simple premise. I'm sure we'll get into this later. That probably makes it pretty, somewhat relatable. Just the setting, and so that was the first time you've seen it, and you've seen it a few more times since then.
Yeah, so I mean, I saw it again. I think when I was in high school, and then for a critical literature class in undergrad that I focused on horror films. So I watched it there, and then I watched it again now. So it's been a long time since then and now that I've seen it.
Oh wow, yeah. So what are your feelings on the film now that we've kind of come back to it?
I mean, no, it's still a really good film. There's a reason why, when you see cliches in films, there's always a basis to it, and it is amazing how this low budget film from the 70s was that basis. I mean, most tropes within slasher films come from, derive from Halloween, and the reason why is because Halloween not only they did it, but they did it so well. It's a really well done film. You know, from the attention to details on the neighborhood, which was, I mean, the whole thing was shot in California during the summer, and having to turn that into, make it look like fall is pretty impressive. Fall in Illinois, right? The details with the pumpkins. I mean, the whole Halloween just feel, which. So you live in Seattle,
Yeah.
and I live in the East Coast, and you're originally from Mercer Island. So I'm gonna shoot some questions to you.
Suburban. Yeah.
Suburban, but how big was Halloween there?
It was pretty big. I mean, people went trick or treating, and yeah, there's always some teenagers messing up people's houses and stuff.
Right, but when it comes to like the ornaments, like around the houses and all that, like
Oh yeah. I mean, there's definitely a fair amount of that going on.
okay, because like, you know, I'm from. I mean, after I moved to the U.S., I moved to Seattle. In Seattle, I mean, you got some going on,
Mm-hmm.
but here on the East Coast, I mean, they go all out. And I mean, it feels a lot more like in the movie, because in Halloween the movie, you have like every house has a shit ton of pumpkins, every house has a shit ton of like a bunch of other stuff. Here, I mean, not so much DC, but like Richmond, Virginia, where I've spent a couple of Halloweens over there. They go all out. They have a Halloween parade. I mean, it's just it's actually like, it's just really almost cozy, because it's just like you have that the whole neighborhood's just lit with you know, the jack-o'-lanterns and all that stuff. And it's cozy. It's cozy. It's creepy at the same time. I don't know. It's just kind of cool. And this is the attention to detail that I think Carpenter gave this film, that also just makes it so enjoyable.
Yeah, you know, I mean, as you said, there's a lot in this film that has kind of become cliches, and I mean, a lot of it is, I think, because it's a very simple film. It made it seem like something that is easy to mimic, but just coming back to it, even after watching a bunch of slashers and stuff like that, it's clear that this is definitely one of the best of them, just surely by a lot of like the details, as you said, and the craftsmanship that went into just a lot of small things like the cinematography and just some of the camera movements and things like that. Mm-hmm. It's just a well-made film in a way that not all slashers definitely are. Right. For me, this is, I think, probably the fourth or fifth time I've seen this too. Back when you were kind of helping to give me my horror education at the end of our stay at UW, oddly enough, I don't think we watched this film, and I don't know why that was. Maybe it was because you'd just seen it recently in that comparative literature course, and didn't want to rewatch it again. But I know we have watched a couple of the other big, tentpole franchises, Nightmare on Elm Street, of course, and Friday the 13th. But oddly enough, I don't think we watched this film during that time. So I've seen it kind of on my own the few times that I have watched it. So yeah, and I think it's quite a good film, and despite it being sort of mimicked so much, I think it holds up pretty well, and there's a reason why it's sort of regarded as a classic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah. Okay. How about the Halloween franchise in general? I mean, I guess we'll get into this more as we do those. Have you seen the other films in the franchise?
I've not seen all of them, but I have seen a few. So I've seen the first and second one. Mm-hmm. When it was playing on TV, like if it was on TV, I think I've seen like bits of other ones. And I saw Halloween H2O. Okay. When I was in, I think, sophomore in college, in undergrad. Mm-hmm. And I mean, just today I watched well, today I watched the latest one. Yesterday I watched Halloween, the 2018 one.
Okay.
I've yet to watch the Rob Zombies. I hear they're kind of a mess. But I mean, it feels like this movie has been sort of redone like a couple of times, because you have 1, 2, then 3 doesn't count because it's not about Michael Myers. 4, 5, 6, 7, or just 6, and then you have H2O that completely undoes everything except for the first 2.
Yeah. And then Resurrection, I think.
And then then it's Resurrection. I think Resurrection is the one with Paul Rudd.
I thought that was 6, but you know.
You're right. I mean, Paul Rudd is supposed to be
Tommy Doyle.
Tommy, yeah.
Who does make an appearance in both of the films we're going to discuss.
Right. I mean, he's the main character in the main
Halloween Kills.
Film.
Yeah.
But anyways, so it went to hell. They did H2O to fix it, and it went to hell again. And then Rob Zombie came in and did not fix it. And now they kind of did everything back to 1. Not even 2 happened, but just 1 to fix it. Now I don't know why they did. Oh, I guess they wanted to get rid of the connection between Laurie and...
Yeah. Well, I mean, to also speak a little bit towards the Rob Zombie ones, which I've also watched in the last couple of years. Those are also... The Halloween that he did is a remake.
Right.
So it's not a sequel.
True.
Yeah. Yes. Though, as is the case for a lot of these franchises, it's kind of a mess. Just real basically, do you like any of those films? I mean, we'll talk about the more recent Halloweens later on in the episode, but any of the other ones?
I mean, the second one I thought was quite good.
Mm-hmm.
Then H2O was kind of campy, but at least it had like a very clear ending.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, then there's a sequel that there shouldn't have been. And I thought the 2018 one was actually rather good. Had it ended there, I think it would have been. It would have been another H2O.
A successful reboot.
A successful reboot with an end.
Okay.
H2O had a very clear end. Chopping Michael Myers' head off. This one was, more ambiguous. But you could have ended it there if you really wanted to end the franchise.
Yeah.
That's a big F.
Yeah. Well, I've seen a lot of the same ones you have. I have seen Halloween 1 through 4, actually. I actually like all 4 of the first 4. Obviously, the first one's the best. I also like Halloween 3, although it's kind of like the weird oddball in the family. It doesn't really fit in at all. More of a one-off.
I mean, I wish there was a remake for that one. Because I've seen 3 too.
I think 3 is a legitimately good movie. I think it's worth discussing. It's just kind of weird because it's lumped into the franchise where it's something that the rest of the franchise is not. So it's a little tricky to discuss in the context of the franchise. Mm-hmm. I mean, it obviously had Carpenter's involvement to some extent. I have also seen the Rob Zombie ones, which I'm not a huge fan of. I guess they're okay. I appreciate him trying to try something new, but for me, I'm not a huge Rob Zombie guy, so not a huge fan of those films. And we'll discuss the more recent 2 later. But I also like the 2018 version too. I don't think it's great or anything like that, but I enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm. It's a good third part. Sequel, because the second one never happened.
Yeah. Okay, well, all right. Well, let's get into it. I mean, there's obviously like a lot of lore with Halloween. People have different relationships with sort of the franchise and stuff like that. Sounds like we're coming to it at sort of a similar place where we've seen, a good chunk of them, but not absolutely everything. Mm-hmm. And, yeah. Okay, well, So one thing that's interesting is that we had been watching a lot of Giallo films, Italian films, coming into this, and so this is probably the first time watching Halloween for you after kind of I made you watch 10 or 11 Giallo films. Did that impact your perspective at all? Did you see certain similarities or differences to the material?
No, actually, it's a great question, and I think it definitely has. It gave me a better outlook, or a better way of looking at the film. When I watched it back in undergrad for this horror film analysis class, basically, the course was about American Nightmare, so it was really about the evolution of American horror. I actually wanted to find my notes, but I could not find my laptop from back then, probably in Seattle. But I mean, the focus was strictly, from the evolution of American horror and what horror is under American views. And yeah, and so we would look at films with, like, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, look at Psycho, and how that gave way to the existence of Halloween. But there was a huge gap, and I think maybe our professor mentioned it, but I don't remember, because I mean, she would mention like foreign things, but we wouldn't watch it, so it wouldn't matter. So there was a huge gap on what makes the recipe for Halloween so good, and that was Giallo.
Yeah.
So if you have, because I mean, Halloween is the perfect mix between Psycho and the suspenseful act, the master, and following the footsteps of the master of suspense, Hitchcock, right?
Right.
So you got that in there. You got a little bit of the grittiness from Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but then you have a lot of the techniques and styles coming from Giallo, the first person camera. Like, there are moments where because I mean, we're talking about, I mean, these are cheap productions. I'm pretty sure those cameras back then were super heavy, especially if you had mics and everything hooked up. You can tell that a lot of the chase scenes are I mean, the sounds are done after, just like an Italian film, which makes sense because it gave the freedom to have the first eye view of the killer, to have the exploration of the house, the way that it's done. And that comes from, and that's definitely inspired by Giallo, for sure.
Right. And we do know, actually, that Carpenter was kind of an Argento fan. He'd definitely seen Deep Red and Suspiria. One of the scenes, kill scenes from Halloween 2 is taken pretty much directly from Deep Red. So definitely a fan. So I think I think there's definitely some influence there. I think one thing that definitely caught my eye too is just the way that Carpenter moves the camera. It's very mobile. It's a little bit less showy than someone like Argento, but I do really like the way that he's just very fluid about moving the camera. The handheld, I think, is really, really good in this film, really strong, in a way that I don't think it's. I feel like it feels a lot more thought out. Obviously, there's the opening shot, which we'll get to at some point, and we'll discuss that. I think that's probably one of the most impressive shots in the film. But just in general, there's huge parts of this film where, like, in some ways, this is kind of setting the template for a slasher. But if you kind of look at it backwards and you take that sort of slasher template where there's maybe a kill every 15 to 20 minutes, and it has that certain formula, Halloween in many ways is a little bit different in the sense that you have that opening kill, and then actually there's not a lot. He escapes from the asylum, obviously, but he doesn't kill anyone until the third act, basically. So until pretty deep into the film. So a lot of that is just like very patient. And I mean, Loomis even comments about how patient he is. And the film is also very patient in terms of just like somehow keeping that tension while he's just kind of lurking around the school during the daytime and following the characters around. And I think the film is very, very strong. The way it just sort of like lurks voyeuristically with Michael Myers just sort of stalking different characters throughout, like, I don't know, basically 45 minutes there in the middle.
Right, I completely agree. I mean, in the first film, which is what, 90 minutes? Maybe a little bit longer.
I think it's 91, so almost exactly 90.
The first film, only 5 people die. That's it. Only 5 people die, and really the whole film is about the suspense.
Yeah,
it's not
a body count film. Yeah,
exactly. It's all about the suspense, and that's it. It's a monster. It is kind of a monster film, but the key is not so much, monster killing, is taking your time, seeing how the monster thinks about things, knowing that it's gonna kill, but you don't know when, you don't know how, and that's really it. And that's something that a lot of slasher films completely miss.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that I think once we get to Halloween Kills, I think that's something that film misses too.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a perfect contrast versus Halloween Kills, which is totally a body count film. Like, I don't know how many people die in that film, but it's a lot. And this film, in comparison, you said 5 people die. That I haven't counted, but I think that's right. And those 5 people, it's like a bunch of them are just at the end too. It's pretty clustered together. In Halloween Kills, we have people just getting knocked off here and there. Is it suspenseful? Maybe a little bit here at moments, but if you're asking me which one like is a lot more tense and suspenseful throughout it, it's certainly the original Halloween.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like not even close. Okay, well, any other thoughts on Giallo? In many ways, I do think Halloween, it simplifies it in ways that are good and bad. I think one thing that maybe isn't so good, well, maybe it just hurts it sort of in the long run, is that it's so simple that it did make it easy to mimic. Yeah. Anything like that you wanted to bring up?
So I was listening to another podcast talking about the simplicity of Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
And they were talking about how I think it was simple and then simplified. I forget what they said. It was damn it. Anyways, the Halloweeny, I think is the name of the podcast itself. But there's something that can be simple and good.
Absolutely.
But something can, but there are other things that are dumbed down, which are bad.
Mm-hmm.
And people sometimes confuse simplicity with dumbed down, and they're not the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
The movie is you think it's easy to mimic because it's simple, but it's not a dumb movie.
No.
And that's why it's just so hard to mimic.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, it is hard to match how good it is. In other way, it's like, oh, it's just like a guy and a knife walking around. So in that sense, it's easy to make a film about a guy with a knife knocking people off.
True.
Yeah. So
no, I agree, but I completely agree with that. But to make a good movie about a guy with a mask with a knife, it's difficult.
Yeah, and Carpenter and Deborah Hill, who produced and wrote it, they knock it out of the park pretty strongly in this film. Okay, well, sorry, I that was kind of a bad question because I was talking about Giallo and I got a little derailed on the simplicity. Any similarities, differences you wanted to point out in terms of Giallo versus slasher / Halloween?
Well, it's funny because we talked about this already, like in our previous podcast. So I mean, I don't know if it's,
So check those out.
exactly. I mean, I've said it before. I think that there's the film where with the motorcyclist. I forget the name of the.
Solange.
I think it might have been Solange. Yeah.
Yeah.
It definitely has that air of a serial killer who you see in first person in many moments.
Yeah.
There was a couple of other films.
Yeah.
But I mean, I always said, like, in those movies, it's like, it's almost there, except for the killer is still a reasonable person, even if they are psychotic, which sometimes they are, like
Especially the Argento ones tend to be.
right.
Like
I was thinking, yeah, the one with the guy with the extra chromosomes. Like, even if they're quote unquote psychotics under their medical babble, they there's a reason behind it that takes it out of this mystical aspect that Halloween brings to the slasher.
Right. Yeah, I mean, in some ways, Halloween is, it is slightly more mystical, but compared to, like, it kind of splits the difference because he's not Frankenstein or something like that. It's like not totally. It's a guy, but it gets rid of that. One thing I do like that it, in my opinion, is a big upgrade versus Giallo, as well as Psycho, which probably most of this stuff comes from, is it just simplifies the psychobabble. It does not bother with it. Instead, we just have, like, Loomis saying a lot of different ominous lines about that. And I think that's a much better way to do it than to sort of have, like... I mean, I love Psycho. I think Psycho's a great film. But, like, the last 5 minutes of Psycho with the explanation, it's stupid. I'm sorry, but it's stupid. And a lot of these Giallo explanations at the end, they're also stupid. Like, they also do not matter. I love these films despite those reasons, but those sorts of reasons at the end are not why I like those films. And I like how this film, it's so simple and so well designed that it doesn't need that. So I think that's one case of this being a little different from Giallo or maybe like what Hitchcock would have done that I think is actually a pretty big upgrade.
Yeah, what's kind of interesting, and I know, again, I'm jumping onto the next one, is that to Halloween Kills, is that this film, as you mentioned, Loomis says a bunch of ominous shit. However, the most clear thing that basically he says is, I saw into his eye. I mean, I don't know. I'm paraphrasing here, but I saw into his eyes, and he is just pure evil. And that's it. That's all you need to know.
Yeah.
Is this person, this child, now adult, is pure evil. And I think what Halloween Kill tries to do, and I know that I'm jumping to the other movie, but
that's fine. I mean, that's why we watch these too, is also we have the full context. Anyways, please go ahead.
Because since the 70s, it's been so much has happened, that so much lore has been created behind Halloween, that I think Halloween Kill wanted to reestablish that. It's like, no, it's not about you, Laurie. It's not about anyone. He's just evil. He likes to kill and hang out in his house. That's what he does. He goes to his house, he kills. And that movie doesn't work for many other reasons. But again, the simplicity. That's it. Explanation, pure evil.
Yep. Yeah, and that's a big reason why I'm like, I don't watch movies for like complicated explanations for killers or anything like that. It's like, you don't need that in order to make a good film. So I agree with you. I think that's something that is good.
Well, yeah. And I mean, I don't know if we're gonna get back to, if we're getting into the what is a horror discussion that we had that one time. But I mean, this is, I'll just throw in my reflection right now. I wrote it down. So to me, Halloween. So when I watched Halloween when I was 8, it was terrifying. Mm-hmm. It fucking terrifying movie. And no, seriously, like, and there's a reason why I didn't watch it until I was like in my late teens, and it's because I was terrified by this film.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's because the movie itself explores pure evil in a human form. The movie starts with a child, with this cute little kid,
right?
Who, when I first watched it, was my fucking age. Who out of nowhere decides to put a mask and kill his sister.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
who by the way, her age is around the age my sister was. So add to how terrifying that is, right? And the way I viewed it then, and I still think it's part of it, is how this person, right, like this child who later becomes an adult, something happens to him that he just decides to be a killing machine. And you could say this is similar to a zombie film, but it's not. This is a man, a human being, flesh and bones, until the end of Halloween. Because, how the fuck do you survive so many shots? But anyways, this is a flesh and bone person who becomes a killing machine. And to me, that was terrifying. It was just terrifying to think, oh, I could become Michael Myers. Anyone could become Michael Myers. And that's going back to the suburb, the safe area where no one is safe. I mean, the killer is literally from within. It's this child.
Right. And I mean, like, we also like to attribute meaning to things, and making, I think you touched on something good there, and making him sort of like a killer that kills for seemingly no reason is just that much more terrifying.
Exactly. And the use of first person adds to that.
Yeah.
So much.
Yeah, where it's like you're identifying with the killer. Okay, so you watched this very young. What age would you say this is an appropriate film to see?
I don't know. I'm really...
Were you too young? Like, if you were to go back there, rewind the clock like in one of them Harry Potter movies or whatever, would you say, Iñaki, don't fucking watch this film?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I don't think I'm fucked up, so, I was probably fine.
Yeah.
This is one of those films where, so I watched it because my sister loved horror, and I think my mom was like not at home, or she got home like when the movie was ending, and she's like, God damn it, But what's kind of hilarious is afterwards, my sister played a prank on me, where, as I'm like changing on my PJ, she's behind me. Like, she opens the door softly, walks in, making the. I turn around, and she has she's wearing fucking bed sheets with like these 70s glasses from my mom's like drawer, and this cleaver, and I basically. If it wasn't because I didn't have shit in me at that moment, I would have shut my pants because I was so scared.
There you go. Well, thank God you didn't have legumes.
I know, seriously. I know this is more like personal opinions and has nothing to do with the film analysis aspect of it. But generally speaking, if I was traumatized, it was probably more because of my sister than the film.
Yeah. Yeah, well, this film also, it leaves an impression on you. Yeah, so, I think there's something to that, too. The first time I found this film to be fairly scary, too, even though I watched it as an adult. It's just an effective piece of filmmaking. Okay, so last thing I wanted to touch on in sort of like that Argento Giallo stuff is one thing that I had not thought of, but was inspired by the film is actually the soundtrack, which is somewhat inspired by Goblin's music in Deep Red and Suspiria. in kind of the same vein of a lot of conversations we've been having, it's a lot simpler of a score. Goblin has like multiple pieces in their band, and it's prog rock. They're doing different stuff. So I thought that was interesting too. I don't know if you have any comment on that. Either way, it's fine.
I can definitely see it when it comes to, I think, with Deep Red.
Mm-hmm.
Suspiria.
Suspiria's score is so over the top that maybe a little bit less so.
Yeah. I mean, Deep Red, I understand, but I think he was definitely more subtle.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm one of the few that is not a huge fan of goblins in Suspiria, although in Deep Red, I appreciate it more.
Yeah. It's almost like if you take Goblin in Deep Red and you tone it way up, then you get Goblin in Suspiria. And if you take Goblin in Deep Red and then you tone it down, then maybe you get Halloween.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah. But the score is, of course, very iconic. I think it's great. Very catchy. Mm-hmm. That's one of the things that definitely sort of lingers in your head. And it's good to see them still continuing to use Carpenter's music in Halloween Kills. It's something that I definitely am in support of.
Well, yeah. I mean, in Halloween Kills, I think they even brought back some of the soundtracks sounds that were not in other films, like the more calm 2-note piece that you would have, like you're just sort of waiting, and you just have the sort of a 2-note piece with small arpeggio, nothing too big on a piano, and just a very eerie piece, because it's not the classic do 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 do, but it's more like the
yeah. It's almost a little old school, but also just updated just enough that it doesn't feel like it's like kind of that sort of cheesy old school sound effect from like 50s sci-fi or something.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we touched on a lot of this stuff. I don't want to spend too long on this. One other topic I did want to bring up is one of the common complaints about this is the other teenage girls. I think Annie and Jamie, and sort of like their teenage dialogue. Totally. Is this a detriment to you? Do you complain about this?
We've watched enough Giallos to ignore bad acting and dialogue.
So, the case in favor of it, and I'm not saying I agree with this, I don't know where I fall exactly on this debate, is that it is kind of realistic. Like, teenage girls are kind of annoying, and like having them talk like that is probably pretty plausible. So
I mean,
does it annoy you?
So, not necessarily. I mean, I don't know. I mean, one of the actors, the girl with the boyfriend, the blonde one, she
Jamie.
was, she was also in Carrie, and she was just like that too, over on that one. So I mean, I was just like, I mean, maybe teenage girls were like that in the 70s. Who knows?
Yeah. I mean, I do find them plausible characters, but they seem pretty annoying. I my second to last viewing of this film, I watched it with a friend who was seeing it for the first time, and I got to see him personally just get visibly more and more annoyed at the teenage girls. So I can see, I can sort of understand the reaction. I don't find them to be that bad. It does come across to me as real people, but they are. I also can see both sides, I guess, to this.
I just think that's kind of how girls were written in the 70s. I think. I mean, was Carrie from the 70s or?
Yeah, 76. So 2 years prior to this. So probably kind of a low key influence.
Right. I mean, and same actress. Because the blonde girl is the bully in Carrie.
No, the bully's Nancy Allen. I don't. So that's someone different.
Wait, not the. Who? Wait. Who was the one who would dress like Mario or Luigi? I mean,
in Carrie.
Yeah.
I don't remember. But the main bully, the one that dates John Travolta, is Nancy Allen. I do know that. Who is not in this film.
Okay. Well, but I mean, one of the bullies is in one of the girls in there is the blonde girl in this one.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
I mean, it's totally plausible to me, so I believe you. Okay. Anything else you wanted to talk about? There's a couple set pieces I had earmarked here. Other than that, I don't have a ton on this film. I mean, obviously a hugely influential film. I think even in beyond the slasher genre, you could sort of see its influence. Like James Cameron cites this film as an influence on Terminator, which I found to be really interesting because that's not a film I would automatically associate it with it. But it makes sense in a certain way.
Yeah. No, let's go on the set pieces.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, again, very simple plot. Probably the most... I mean, we talked a lot about sort of like that daytime camera work a little bit and just how it's so mobile. I think probably the most impressive set piece or shot in the film is the opening where they kill Judith Myers. Carpenter supposedly... They saved that shot for last because it was technically the most difficult. Carpenter was inspired by sort of the opening shot in Touch of Evil, which I'm also a big fan of how that film opens too, just sort of like with a tracking shot. And I love it. I think it works well. I think it's a great way to just sort of draw you into the film to start. It's not. It feels somehow less showy than Argento in certain ways. So it feels a little more humble and grounded in certain ways. But I think it really works well. And like it's a legitimately shocking moment where it finally does cut, and you just see that like very young boy doing it. So I think it's really good. That's my opinion.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. It's also, it does a good job also sort of introducing the first person who he kills, as well as giving you the layout of the house.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good point.
And the layout of the neighborhood. So I mean, with very little, you already get a feel of the neighborhood. It's Halloween. You get a feel of the house. You get a feel of the character herself, who is is a young teenage girl, and you get a little bit of that grindhouse because I mean it's sort of exploitative, the actual killing. It does a lot of things really well.
Yeah, I agree. Other than that, I guess the only other really set piece, I mean, unless you want to talk about either of the kills, but as you said, this is like the prototypical slasher. So we don't have like these super over the top bloody kills in the same ways. I think they're good and effective and nasty enough, but they're not like blood spurting everywhere.
Well, most of the kills are actually off camera. I mean, the actual slashing or stabbing itself, you don't really see it. Like
True.
The killing of the killing of. I wish I forgot to have a list of characters' name here.
Which one?
The killing Linda's boyfriend, for example.
Oh yeah, that guy. I don't know his name either.
Michael Myers is choking him, so he's lifted up, but you don't really see how he kills him. You see he's being lifted up. All you see is his feet, and then Michael Myers stabs him. You don't actually see the stabbing. You just see the after the fact.
Right.
I don't remember when Linda dies, like when she's killed. The setup is actually really brilliant, right? She expects her boyfriend instead of Michael Myers dressed as a ghost using her boyfriend's glasses, and again you got a nice kill going on.
But as you said, it's just as much about the suspense as it is the kill.
Exactly. Right there. I mean, it takes a long time for him to actually attack her.
Right. She's
talking to him, thinking that's her boyfriend, and it's not. He's gonna kill her, and it's like she's just like being flirty and all that, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I mean, as an audience, when it's gonna happen, but you're kind of curious how.
Yeah, and they also have that additional touch, which I like, of having her talk to Lori, who originally thinks it's like sex or something that she's hearing. Yeah, which I think is also effective. That so you can sort of get that cross cutting going on. Yeah, I mean, even like the other kill in the car of Annie, I like how that one's done too. It sort of like delays the actual event too, where she goes to the car at first, and like the car is locked, and then she goes, gets the key, then she comes back, and like the car is all of a sudden unlocked.
Right.
I like little touches like that where it's just sort of, you could tell that they thought this out. They're sort of delaying that, which just helps to create like this additional suspension tension, which I think is definitely something that makes it stand out versus a lot of other slashers.
Completely agree.
Yeah. And probably the last notable thing is just sort of when we get Jamie Lee Curtis coming in at the end, and she basically has their house with Tommy and I forget the girl's name invaded, and they have to. She basically goes up against Michael Myers for the first time,
Right.
which I think is, I think this is a favorite scene of many to sort of just nitpick character decisions. I hear Nathaniel somewhere playing his tiny violin, but that stuff doesn't bother me because people under stress and duress, they're gonna act suboptimally. So
are you talking about her dropping the knife, her dropping basically all the weapons that she has,
and always turning her back on Michael Myers? Sadly, Laurie has not seen a slasher.
I mean, she fights pretty well.
She does. She's effective.
She's effective indeed. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand those nitpicks. This one was again a movie that started the cliche because in other films it happens too.
Yeah.
But yeah, who knows? I don't know. Actually, when watching it this time, because she stabs him with a knife, and then she sees her hand full of blood from the knife, and she kind of drops the knife. It actually makes sense. Like, if you think she's supposed to be like what, 16 years old, 17 years old, like. If you're like a fucking kid who literally just stabbed someone and you see your hands full of blood,
right?
I mean, I would be terrified and I'd probably drop the knife too. I mean, also you would assume that the man is dead. He's on the fucking floor.
Yeah, I mean, you also just saw 3 of your friends brutally killed, and Michael Myers, for some reason, wanted to create this great set with like a gravestone and stuff like that in a bedroom. I mean, that's pretty fucking disturbing. I mean, I would be very upset too.
He likes to play with his dead people.
It's true. Yeah.
He's actually an artist.
Yeah, spelled with like lots of fancy symbols and an E at the end. In the end too, I do like also how it's like not a lot of like jump scares with Michael Myers jumping out at her or anything like that. He's just kind of like this slow force, and we like see the danger like get up behind her repeatedly. Like we have that very iconic shot, so we know that she's in danger before she does, rather than it just being like, oh, surprise, it's Michael Myers, sort of deal. So I like how the film prioritizes sort of that like suspension tension over cheap jump scares.
I agree.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that is most of what I have. We are.
Let me throw one last thing on where I do think, why I think this film might be also so important for film and horror. And I mean, this is probably something I maybe learned in that class. I don't know. I don't remember. I don't have my notes. But one area that I think this movie also sort of powerful is, at least within the American context. This is the first time the killer goes to you, as opposed to you going to them. So like when you compare it to other American slashers like Psycho, I mean, if Psycho's a slasher, I don't know. You go to the hotel. In Texas Chainsaw Massacres, you go to Texas.
Right.
I mean, it's travelers going there.
Well, this one is Canadian, so maybe it doesn't count. But what about Black Christmas?
Black Christmas, it's that one is that one, and that one technically would be the first one of this kind, you could say. 'Cause, I mean, they're all from the idea of it's. They're all based on the folk story or the urban legend, the phone call coming from within.
Mm-hmm.
So they're all from that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you could say that one is probably the first one, but that one is at a sorority. So it's like it's a very small group of people that actually experience that life.
Mm-hmm.
Here is literally like
a suburban house,
a family house. It's a babysitter and a boy, and I think it's really bringing that horror, that terror, that evil into your house, a place that looks really fucking safe.
Mm-hmm.
Especially in the suburbs.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. Anything else?
No, that's it.
Okay. Who won the movie?
Oh yeah, I forget. We do that. Carpenter. I mean, wait, actually, no, Carpenter and who's the co-writer?
Deborah Hill.
It's difficult. Funny how we didn't even talk about Loomis.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah, Loomis. I mean, he's a big reason. Like him and Jamie Lee Curtis. If we're just talking about like things that set Halloween apart from other slashers, I feel like those two are a big part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who actually wrote it? Was did she write the film, or was it Carpenter, or was it someone else?
Let's see.
Okay, I think it was by both of them.
Yep. And she produced. Supposedly, she's responsible for a lot of the female dialogue in the film.
Oof.
I don't necessarily fault it as much, but it isn't very fun. But
I'll give it to both.
Okay, all right.
It's a tie.
Okay, I'll give it to both too. I would feel bad, be like, yeah, just John Carpenter, not Deborah Hill. After you gave it to them, but yeah, I mean, I think it goes to the creators. They did a very good job with the film. Okay, rating.
I give this one an 8.
Okay. Actually, we see very eye to eye, I guess. For me, it's also an 8. I do think this film, unfortunately, does get a little bit watered down just by having so many imitators for it. It's like, we think about a film like one thing I thought about watching this film, this is kind of an unrelated genre, but like Godfather was very famous and popular in Italy. So was something like The French Connection. But only one of those got endlessly sort of imitated in Italy because The Godfather is very complex and hard to imitate, whereas The French Connection, it's kind of like your rogue tough cop. Same with Dirty Harry, a lot easier to imitate. And so I feel like Halloween, it sort of suffers from just a lot of people being like, oh yeah, I can imitate that. And so a lot of the things that maybe were more original at the time do feel a little more dated and a little bit more like tropes. Not to say it's bad. Obviously, I do have quite a lot of admiration for this film. Okay, last thing I wanted to ask you on this. Would you take this film or Deep Red?
I think I prefer this one.
Okay. I take Deep Red. I like the Italian sets just a little bit better. The sort of richer, more complicated, so I think there's different pros and cons. It
depends on how I'm feeling. Like... Right now we are in October, we are in Halloween, and my mood is horror. So, and Deep Red is less of a horror, more of a crime film.
Yeah.
I mean it's still a horror.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would say Halloween fits more neatly into the horror genre than most of Giallo, which is like sort of hybridish. I
mean, genres are...
They're fluid. Genres are fluid.
Genres are fluid. I was having a conversation recently about like, a lot of people consider Sixth Sense a horror film, and I never did. And then I actually consider Jurassic Park a horror film. Most people don't.
Okay.
And I mean, why not? It has monsters that are killing people seamlessly, while in Sixth Sense, no one is dying.
Yeah. Okay. Well, fair enough. What about versus some of the contemporaries of the time, like Texas Chainsaw or Black Christmas? What do you pick?
Black Christmas, I don't remember that one very well. Actually, I only seen it once with you.
Yeah. We watched that around 10 years ago, too.
So I do not have much of an opinion. Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
I also watched 10 years ago with you.
I also watched it 10 years ago. I need to rewatch it first, so I'm not gonna give it a comparison yet.
Yeah. For me personally, I take Texas Chainsaw. I saw that film, and that film fucking bites. It's the most visceral of them. It feels the most out of control. So I think it kind of holds up just because like that grindhouse nature is just really, really hard to replicate. But yeah, they're all great in their own way.
I'm just curious, which one do I want to rewatch more?
I'd probably pick Black Christmas or Halloween to rewatch more. Texas Chainsaw is a fucking trip. So
it is. It
yeah.
is.
It's like, I think it might be the shortest, but it's also like the most intense. I mean, just that title alone is just like, I mean, it's something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Great. So yeah, he gave this an 8 out of 10 too. So we're pretty simpatico on this. Let us move on to Halloween Kills. Okay. So what did you think of the film?
It's kind of a mess. It's a very fun mess. It's a very fun mess. With Michael Myers in it. And it is actually, I mean, if there's one thing they sort of did well, was Michael Myers. Yeah, it's a lot of characters. It's a lot of quotes, a lot of flashbacks to the movie that just happened right before. Some flashbacks to the very same movie you're watching.
Flashbacks to 1978.
Yeah, the 1978 actually makes sense, and actually those were the more enjoyable scenes, in my opinion.
I guess so.
They did a good job, in my also in replicating 1978. It almost
they did get the
feel.
Basic environment down pretty good.
Yeah, which is really hard to do, but I mean, the dialogue felt like a bunch of taglines. Like many times when people are talking, it's like, tonight evil dies, or evil dies tonight.
Yeah.
It's said by like, I think, multiple characters. Yeah. Many times. And
they needed to workshop that a little more,
Yeah, it's funny because you hear the complaints about the previous one.
Yeah.
But the previous one, they actually feel, even though the writing is bad, and when the girls are talking to each other, like Valley Girls or whatever, it feels like a conversation. There's a back and forth. There's like a hearing and a call and response. Here, it literally felt like a bunch of taglines being passed around.
Yeah, I mean, and it's one thing when like Donald Pleasance is saying it, because like that guy can pull it off in a way that's pretty entertaining, I think. And it's another thing when you have all these different characters saying it. It just, I don't know, it's a little silly.
Yeah. So before when we decided to watch these two films,
mm-hmm.
I had not yet seen Halloween 2018,
mm-hmm.
right? I'm telling this to the audience because this is fun. It's relevant to what I'm about to say. When we talked about this, I was like, "Hey, should I watch it?" And James said, "Nah, you don't need to." Neither James or I had seen Halloween Kills, so I mean, he was just talking out of his ass.
Yeah. I mean, not different from most things, but yes.
Yeah, exactly. So I decided to watch it because I'm like, this is for a podcast. I don't wanna be asking myself too many questions while watching this film.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, he was sort of right and wrong. You don't need to watch it because the film has all the flashbacks to the previous film that you don't need. Like, this film, Halloween Kills, it was sort of made. It's not a film that can stand by its own. It's the second part of a trilogy.
Yeah.
However, so I mean, it couldn't, structurally speaking. However, it also didn't try. If we were to compare different trilogies, there is. I'm gonna compare it to completely unrelated trilogies, right? You got the Star Wars trilogy, the original one. The Empire Strikes Back is the middle film, but you can watch it by itself.
Yeah.
And you have a full film. You don't need to know what happened before or after. Contextually, you can get it. Two Towers from Lord of the Rings, same story. You can have that. In this one, instead, they decided to cram as many flashbacks. Not just the ones from the 70s, I don't mind. But the flashbacks from the 2018 film, why? Why have that?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean,
yeah. I mean, also, you watch these back to back. I watched the 2018 one back in 2018 or 2019, so it's been a hot second for me. To me, at least, they felt very tonally quite different. Like it's almost like shocking that it's the same people that are making this film. You saw these closer together. Did you have that same impression, or am I off base?
Yeah. No, 100%. I mean, I think Halloween 2018, again, not a great movie, but it actually does a really good job at trying to bring it back to the original Halloween.
Right.
It's not the original. The kill count is like 3 times as big as the original, but it scales it back to that.
Yeah, and and this film has like a kill count 3 times the amount from Halloween 2018.
Yeah, at least. I mean, this one just goes like balls to the walls. And again, the previous one actually, you got a. I mean, it's not a simple movie. You actually got a. I mean, the main killer is very simple. That's the part where they dial it back, right? He just kills. Why? Who gives a shit?
Yeah,
he kills. And that's the reason why I did the second one, because it's the Halloween 2 and from the 80s. They actually gave him a purpose. No, fuck that purpose. He's evil. He kills. Done. That's fine. This one, they sort of play with that purpose, ending up to the same conclusion that the first one, the 2018 already set up, which is he's evil. That's it.
Yeah.
But in this one, but the previous one, they decided to add a plot, which is a family drama, and actually that's a solid plot, and that it was just one plot, family drama. In this one, they add a shit ton of subplots, and it's just hard to tell. Like, why do I care anymore?
Right. Yeah, I feel very similar about this film to you too. It felt like they planned on Halloween 2018 being a one-off, and I think it works pretty well like that. Not a great film by any means, but a very enjoyable one. And this one, it's almost like they got approved for like a second season that they didn't expect to be, and they're like, oh, all right, let's come up with this. And they come up with some very, I don't think all the ideas are bad necessarily, but it's very, very messy and very overcomplicated in a way I don't think it needed to be.
It reminds me of The Last Jedi, Star Wars The Last Jedi.
Okay.
And I'm fearful for Halloween Ends. Because, why do I say this? Because I think the director had some ideas, the writers have some ideas, and they were like, okay, fuck it, let's try it. Let's just shoot for it.
Yeah. They really could have used some editor or something to like kill some of those ideas, Yeah,
but I applaud them trying. So this is the positive. I think they were ambitious, and I applaud the ambition. They, for example, I actually, conceptually speaking, not as how it was done. Conceptually speaking, I love the grief angle that the film was taking. Right, Michael Myers just killed a shit ton of people in the previous film.
Mm-hmm.
So, undoubtedly, now you're actually seeing the pain that has caused to the loved ones, the survivors.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a powerful thing. That's something you don't see in slasher films, and that I appreciate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I mean,
However,
I don't disagree with you. The problem is it tried to do that and about 10 other things. And
exactly.
So it does feel just overstuffed. You're probably going to disagree with this because we felt differently about this film. But the film it reminded me of, actually, is Candyman, which I also felt was very overstuffed and the themes didn't really work. So, I mean, I'm speaking personally for myself. I liked a lot of the technical aspects of that film. And I like some of the kills here. Like, they're appropriately brutal and they look nice and stuff, even if the film never really like attempts too much suspense. Like, I enjoyed watching this film, but like its attempt at themes and stuff, I thought were very mixed bag, and a lot of it didn't work.
I agree in part. I think Candyman had maybe two themes, but you could say like, oh, it was too politically loaded and all that stuff, and that, hey, that's where we disagreed, right?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't mind it being politically loaded. I just didn't think it worked very well.
Right, sure. But I would say it had two, at most three.
Okay, if you simplify it, sure.
This one had 20.
Fair.
Like, mob justice, good.
Yeah.
Oh, but it's bad. No, sorry, mob justice, bad, but is it good too? Oh, some sort of like preconceptions of some sort of I want to say minority, but that's not the word. But like vulnerable group of people, aka the other man from the mental facility, right? Okay, so you have that. And that's like a little like that's like an episode of this movie. It's like an episode that could have happened or not, because it doesn't change the plot.
No, it doesn't.
So, all right, you have that. You have Laurie Strode and her drama. You have the family that you have the boyfriend, girlfriend, and boyfriend's dad hunting Michael Myers.
Yeah.
You have the black doctor, the black nurse, black doctor and nurse.
You have Little John and Big John.
You have Little John and Big John. You have Tommy and the nurse.
Yeah.
Who, by the way, this movie raises Halloween 2, but the nurse, like, tries to kill Michael Myers, telling him, like, as a revenge for what he did to Loomis. But if Halloween 2 never happened, Loomis was not killed by Michael Myers.
Yeah, true.
Anyways, so a fucking mess. Like, you just got too much, and I mean, to be honest, many of those ideas I actually,
yeah.
Hey, what happened to Tommy? You know what? I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
Would love to know that.
I kind of like the mob plot. If it didn't have to juggle so many balls at the same time.
But even the mob plot was like inconsistent, because it's like mob bad. Oh, but mob good. Oh, but mob bad? Because mob, it's just like, I don't know.
Yeah. It was just very muddled and muddied. I do think where this film does work, though, is when you simplify it just to like Michael Myers killing people, like, which is, admittedly a very simple thing. I think for the most part it's an effective enough slasher.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, if we're going for the slasher aspect of it, and this is the part where the movie did really good. Michael Myers was really good. He was actually, I mean, way more effective than the first one for sure, and supernatural as well. but he was also the Michael Myers of the first one, in the sense that not only did he kill, but then he would set a scene with the dead bodies.
Yeah, he likes his set pieces.
Yeah.
43 years later, he's still thinking up cool schemes.
Yeah, exactly, and I appreciate that, because and I think one of the themes of the movie actually kind of works well is they sort of like set out this concept that it's like he's still basically the child, the 5-year-old child and now in a geriatric body that kills a lot of people, and but he's a child in the sense that he plays with the dead bodies. He takes joy out of this, and he makes whatever thing, just like a kid playing around with it. And thematically speaking, again, he's pure evil with the mind of a child and the body of a giant who is geriatric now.
I think he had some of that like German gene therapy that LeBron gets every offseason.
Seriously. or
that's what people always wonder, what he does in the off season when it's not Halloween. I think we have our answer. He goes to Germany, gets some special injections.
The same with Paul Rudd, huh?
Yeah, him and Paul Rudd, they're buddies after Halloween 6 or whatever.
I mean, okay, so I saw clips of the movie that had Paul Rudd, which I think is the 5th one I said, or a 6th one.
One of those. I haven't seen it, so I've seen neither.
But
so
I saw a clip, and then I was like, I saw a trailer for like an Avengers movie, and I was like, oh shit, he looks almost the same.
Yeah. I mean, he's kind of famous for that. I mean, he's over 50. Has not aged much. Yeah.
Fuck him. I digressed.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't have a ton about this film other than that. I think it's pretty simple for me what did work and what didn't. I actually did enjoy this film a fair amount.
Me
I
too.
didn't go in with very high expectations. So just having a very simple body count film, I mean, I thought it was fun.
So if we go strictly by the kills, they were very enjoyable. I mean, when there's a scene where he's killing in the car, the different ways that he's killing those people, that's good. The one that I highlighted was when there were many moments where I laughed out loud. So there's the fight with the firefighters.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
But you know what? That I laughed out loud.
Well, I mean, that is the scene that kind of tips you off at what kind of film this is going to be.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I kind of, to be honest though, I wish that at that point they would have filmed this more on the like Old Boy style, where you just get to see everyone.
Oh, that would have been fun. Yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm. Either that or do what they did in the latest Suicide Squad, where you have that fight in the reflection of the helmet. I also love that scene, where again you still get to see the whole choreography.
Mm-hmm.
But in a different angle, but something like that. Basically, they should have gotten another double that knows martial arts or something to do the whole thing nonstop, and that would have been even better, right? With the fire in the back and all that shit. But I mean, but still, yeah, it sets the mood for the film. It's this Michael Myers doesn't fuck around. He can kill anything and everything.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
There's the killing of the lady with a fluorescent light bulb.
Oh yeah.
That was also another interesting kill.
Yeah. He also is definitely no longer killing just teenagers. He's equal opportunity. Kills LGBTQ community. He kills minorities. He kills everyone.
Well, I mean, the original didn't have any minorities or anything. The original was like the first one was all white people.
Yeah.
And straight. So yeah, here he gets a chance of killing everything.
Yeah.
Everyone under the sun.
Yeah.
Except for Latinos, there's no Latino representation. Michael Myers still racist.
Yeah, I don't think he's killed an Asian person yet either.
Oh, you're right. There you go.
Yeah.
No,
Well,
but
in his defense, he's in Haddonfield, Illinois, so.
right. But now one thing. So the other thing I actually liked about this movie when it comes to the kills is that it lingers on the victim's face. On the victim's face, and it goes back to the whole grief concept, where again it's not so much the gore porn that you're watching, but you're seeing this human being having their lives sucked out of them through the stabbing or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually another thing where, you know, and going back to the lady with the fluorescent light bulb in her throat, as she's dying, she's basically seeing her husband being used as a pincushion for steak knives, all kind of like like sort of out of focus. And this is really like masterfully done, where you see her pain. She's sad seeing her husband basically dead.
Right. Yeah.
While she knows she's dying.
Yeah, I agree. There's some nice, just kind of one-off, just images, I'd say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean when it comes to the kills, they did a good job. Overall, it's just everything else.
Yeah.
Like the system. Like you gotta follow the system. The system have failed. Get the fuck out of my way. Like, I mean, this is literally a quote. I actually quoted that because I was just like, no.
That's writing. Yeah, get us back to totally.
I know. Again, I'm sorry, but totally, like, she totally doesn't want to. Yeah, so you know what? People probably like fuck it. I know people who talk like that now. Like, I don't think anyone has ever says evil dies tonight.
I know. It's like real people don't talk like that. Yeah. Also, you got anything else?
I was gonna say, speaking of how people don't talk, I don't think, as flamboyant as you might be, if your boyfriend's name is John and your name is John, I don't think your nickname will be Big John and Little John. I don't think so. Speaking of how people don't talk to each other.
Somewhere Nathaniel is agreeing with you.
Although I must say this, going back to it, this being a fun movie and turning off your brain.
Yeah.
I do love the fact that, like, when he's in his old house, which is where the Johns live, and they realize, oh shit, someone's in the house, and it's not a child. Big John is like, oh shit, takes off his watch, takes off his like rings, and grabs the knife, and there's this whole setup like an action film, and I was like, all right, this is kind of cool. I hope this is gonna be a good fight. Unfortunately, It wasn't, but it would have been somewhat redeeming for, you know, how stereotypically gay they were. Because they were just straight up stereotypes.
Yeah.
So it would have been cool to see them having, like, actually giving a good fight at least.
Yeah, it's true. But not many people gave Michael Myers a good fight. I mean, one interesting thing that you bring up that is kind of interesting that came to my mind too is the previous film, 2018, was somewhat criticized for being more pro-gun. What's kind of funny about this film is that people that use guns, it does not go well, to put it mildly.
Well, nothing goes well.
No, nothing goes well. Yeah, Michael Myers kills... He reduces Haddonfield's population by a lot.
Yeah. Yes. I mean... Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting because I watched it when I watched the 2018 film. I actually was like, oh, this is not bad. Like, again, we're not saying it's a great movie, but it's not a bad movie.
No,
it has some interesting characters. It has that actress that is in almost everything, but you never remember her. Judy Greer.
Who is she?
She's the mom.
Okay, so she's in both.
Yeah, she's in both.
Okay. Oh yeah.
Because she's in a lot of things. Like she's in What's Woman's Want, the Jurassic Parks. Like I think one of the Jurassic Parks. Ant-Man. She's like in a bunch of movies, but I mean, she's always like a secondary character. Anyways, she gets a pretty cool role, and then they kill her.
Yeah.
At the very end.
I think the end pissed off a lot of people, just because they just kind of unceremoniously kill off a ton of people. But I don't know. I didn't really have an issue with it. But I don't.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I'm not that tied to the lore of Halloween, and obviously the people that run the franchise aren't either, considering how many times they've twisted the mythology and stuff like that.
I mean, yeah, but this is not I'm not talking about the lore. I'm talking about, I mean, like, you set out some characters, and I mean, I don't mind that they kill her. Mm-hmm. I just think it was stupid. I think that the how she ends up going to... sure, you could say it's my inner Nathaniel, but I mean, one of the problems with this film is that it's very inconsistent on how intelligent characters are.
Yeah.
And this, to me, is not a nitpick, because a movie needs to set rules, right? Mm-hmm. Once a movie sets its own rules, then you can follow them.
Yeah.
And Karen, character played by Judy Greer, is a smart, safe character who also is very trained with guns and other weaponries, right? Mm-hmm. And the movie kind of sets her out that way. She's more cautious than her mother, and her daughter, and all that stuff. So why the fuck at the end, a character you already set her out to be this person,
yeah, to just get unceremoniously killed,
goes into Michael Myers' house when she did not see him getting his head chopped off? Because unless you saw him getting his head chopped off at this point, you would assume that he probably will kill that entire mob, which he did.
Yeah.
And instead of going home to her daughter, who is bleeding out, she goes to Michael Myers' house.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, fair point. Considering, I had forgotten what she had done in Halloween 2018, but that's a good point.
But in this one, she literally sets out the trap for him, for the mob to get him.
True.
And in fact, I think she was the brains on that, because I mean, they don't tell you how they make up the trap. Mm-hmm. I think she was the brains on that, because Tommy was a fucking idiot.
Yeah. No, it's true.
Those are the things that I guess pissed me off. It's like there was no consistency on any character, and a lot of wasted characters.
Yeah. I mean, I think we mostly agree on this film. Again, I hate to go back to it, but it feels to me just like, oh, we're gonna make another Halloween. Oh, we're gonna make two more. Okay, we'll try to come up with something, and it just doesn't feel very cohesive with the previous film. It feels a lot more like I don't know. It's just way more of a body count film. The previous one, for what it's worth, did have seemingly like a good direction of where it wanted to go. And I didn't love it, but I thought it worked reasonably well.
Yeah, it even have because I mean this one also I guess going more into technical. Other things it wasn't even that impressive when it came to camera work or things like that, which the 2018 actually did have a couple of cool scenes, tracking shots and whatnot.
Yeah. I it wasn't as memorable, I guess, in some ways. I mean, it's amazing to go back to the original, how well the original holds up with just like very simple filmmaking techniques. Obviously, a very small fraction of the budget of a film like Halloween Kills. So just kind of goes to show that like even being much mimicked and with very small budget, it just holds up really well. All right, well, I think that's just about it from my end. Any last things you want to add?
Well, who won?
That was my question. I'm gonna give it to Michael Myers. I think he won. I think Haddonfield definitely takes the L on this one.
I think I might give it to John Carpenter and Deborah Hill's checking accounts.
Well, Deborah Hill has sadly passed away, but
oh shit. Okay,
John
so
Carpenter.
then Joe Carpenter's checking account. I think he quote unquote helped on this. And whatever it was giving them their updated routing number to make sure that the money went to the right place.
Yeah. I mean, he has been cashing in on this franchise pretty much since 1978. So good for him.
I think I think for the 2018, it felt like maybe he had something on it, but for this one, I don't think so. I think once that contract, if your assumption is correct, once that contract got extended, he was like, oh, okay, all right, fuck that, I want my paycheck though.
Yeah. It's hard to say. I did listen to an interview with him before, and the director, interview with the director, and the director was saying that he had forwarded the third script to Carpenter to read. So who knows? Who knows how much he did? But yeah, I mean, it's clear that it's so different from the original film that it's pretty not obvious. But if I were Carpenter, I'd probably be doing the exact same thing. Be like, okay, the last one made how much? $250 million? Okay, yeah, let's do another one. Okay, so fair enough. And rating?
5.
Okay. I'm gonna give this the same rating I gave Candyman, 6.5.
Ouch.
It's stupid but fun.
Okay, all right.
I know. I this has accidentally turned into me kind of inadvertently hating on the more recent Candyman. But yeah, that's what I'm gonna give it. Okay, well, that is it for this Film to Film. We will be going to some other countries in the future. Thank you all for tuning in. You can send us an email at zafilmtofilm@gmail.com or tweet at us zafilmtofilm. And we will see you all next time.
Also, don't forget to rate us on whatever you're listening.
Yeah, 5 stars.
All right.
Ciao.